down one night. Would Papa tell Mama? Would Papa tell Mama? Let that boy boogie. Hey, 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 hey. The enemy. And it got to come out. I felt so good. Went on boogie just the same. Boom, 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 boom.
All right, we're at Tomstown Distillery, downtown Kansas City. Cool little mural on the front of the distillery here. We're gonna go.
It's nice and cool where we will do our tastings. Okay, well welcome to our distillery, welcome to Tomstown. My name is Tony, I'll be your tour guide this afternoon. Is this anyone's first time here at Tomstown? Oh, sorry y'all. Well, welcome. Well, we're happy to have all you out-of-towners and locals. Like I said, I'm a local as well, so our story really struck a chord with me. If you aren't familiar, we are named after the one, the only Tom Pendergast. Is anyone familiar? Tom, Boss Tom, let's see a few hands. Well, if you aren't, Tom Pendergast was a political leader right here in Kansas City during the 1920s and 30s. Political leader, to put it gently, more like Boss. Boss Tom, that's what they called him because he ran Kansas City. He inherited a few concrete companies which brought a lot of revenue here in the city. He also sort of controlled the police force. He had the police force in his back pocket, so there were no alcohol-related arrests during Prohibition. So Prohibition kind of skipped Kansas City. Did not happen here. As a result, the liquor was flowing like the Missouri River. There were over 200 speakeasies scattered around this town. We were nicknamed the Paris of the Plains. So just to give you a little idea of that, I'm going to show you a video later on in the tour that features our co-founders, David Epstein and Steve Revere, and it's going to dive deeper into their own family connections with Tom and just Tom's influence right here in the heart of the city. So I got a great afternoon full of fun and excitement for you all. We're first going to start off just with talking about this building, because it's pretty old, it's over 100 years old. And then we'll talk about what we're doing with it today, because we're literally utilizing every square foot of this space. Then we'll dive into our production process. Then we'll head up to our second floor. You'll see our event space. Then we'll conclude the tasting on our third floor with that video. And then, drum roll, you'll get to taste all 5 of our core spirits. So here at Tomstown, we make 2 gins, 2 bourbons, and 1 vodka. So get your taste buds ready for that. So let's jump right into it. So this building was built in 1908, originally as an auto carriage company. After they moved out, Price Candy Factory and later Russell Stover moved in. They had a retail outlet here on the first floor, and then on the second floor they created Cherry Mash. Is anyone familiar with that candy? I would say it's like a nice old-fashioned candy. It has a cherry cream filling wrapped in chocolate and nuts. Comes in that little, that white wrapper with the red stamp. Yeah. Local delicacy, I would say. But unfortunately for those 2 candy companies, there was a mysterious fire that forced them elsewhere. I say mysterious because there's no record of this fire literally anywhere. I've looked. We didn't even know that fire even happened until we bought the building, and then we unveiled these support pillars. They were completely covered up. Okay, so when we took that off, we're like, oh, okay. And then literally all of them are charged with crisp. We call that level 7, and you'll get that reference in a little bit. But what contained that fire to this first floor is the tin ceiling, and that is the original. I mean, we didn't, slap a coat of paint on there, but thanks to that tin ceiling, this building is still standing here today. Even though the building was not completely destroyed from the fire, Price Candy and Russell Stover had to relocate because back then they didn't have insurance. They didn't have Allstate to cut them a check for the cost of damages, so they moved out, and this building sat vacant for the next couple of decades. It wasn't until the Pitch magazine moved in here that anything occupied the space for quite a while. And then after the Pitch moved out in 2015, we moved in. We absolutely fell in love with this space, not only because of the structure and the design, but also the location. We are only a couple blocks away from Tom Pendergast's original office, which is 1908 Main Street. And if you didn't catch that, that is the same year that this building was made. So, you know, it was written in the stars. It was meant to be. Dive into our production process. Have any of you been on any distillery tours or brewery tours? Most of you? So then you'll recognize, you know, these stages. So pretty much, distilling is broken up into 3 stages. We have cooking, fermentation, and then distillation. So cooking first starts off right here in our mash tun. This holds 650 gallons of water. It has a stainless steel jacket on the inside for steam to heat it. And that steam is brought in through these white insulated pipes that travel through the distillery and then down to our basement boiler. Once we heat that water, we then toss in the grains and enzymes with the goal of creating simple sugars from those complex carbs. And that process only just takes a few hours. We then dump that mixture into our fermenters right here. Now, yeast love sugar. They're going to act like little Pac-Man. They're going to gobble it up, and then they're going to produce ethanol. So that is the alcohol. It's the good stuff. At this point of the process, we're left with what we call distiller's beer. And distiller's beer is a thick, porridge-like substance. Depending on the mash, you know, the grains we use, it can either be sweet or sour. Brian Harper, he is our lead distiller here at Thomastown. He flooded one of these one time and caught like the excess in a bucket. And, you know, he kind of was like, hey, who wants to try it? And, you know, I'll try everything one time. Because what do you know, nothing learned, nothing gained, nothing ventured, nothing gained. So I tried it. The flavor wasn't bad, but the texture, that's what got me. The texture is very chewy, and I don't know about you, but I'd rather drink my spirits than eat them. So we're not done there. We're gonna pump that into our gorgeous pot still right in this back corner. So this is a pot still with a Scotch top. It is a hybrid, meaning it works with several different types of spirits. It's again gonna have that stainless steel heating jacket on the inside. As well as you can see, is primarily made of copper, which is very important because it's going to catalyze any sulfur compounds that was created during fermentation. So it's going to eliminate any foul taste, color, odors brought on from those sulfates. We then are going to distill that mixture in there. And basically the whole principle of distillation is heating that liquid to a high enough temperature so the alcohol vaporizes and passes on through that little pipe, but low enough so that water and things that we don't want to produce is left behind. So then what's left behind is called stillage. And we don't just, you know, dump that down the drain. We tried that one time. Didn't end well. Kind of backed up. Huge mess. We're not going to do that again. So we actually give it to local goat farmers. And they use that as feed for their goats. That's pretty neat. Now, depending on what spirits we'll be distilling next, we're going to use one of those 2 column stills. This shorter column still is our whiskey column. However, you can distill any flavor-forward spirits like rum or agave spirit. It's going to have 4 different plates on the inside, essentially creating 4 different chambers. Each chamber is designed to allow alcohol to vaporize and pass through, and water to condense and drip back down. And each chamber is covered by a copper bubble cap. Moving on to this taller column still, this is our vodka column. And there's a fun story connected to this. Since this equipment is in such high demand, there's sometimes an 8 to 9 month lead time. So we bought this without exactly knowing where we're gonna put it. So we get it, and you know, doesn't quite fit in this room. So we had to cut a hole in the ceiling and pop it up into our 2nd floor, which is our event space. So it turned out to be a happy little accident. We just put a little glass case over it, and then, you know, voila, we got a feature in our event space. Yeah. You can charge more for that, so that's great. And we're going to be able to see it here in just a few moments. That's pretty neat. But the reason why our vodka column is so tall is we distill our vodka 17 times coming off the pot still. So there are 16 different chambers in our vodka column. So now if you're wondering, okay, well then why do you distill your vodka so many more times than your whiskey? Well, vodka by definition is a neutral spirit, so we want it to be nice and pure. With whiskey, you know, we want some of those impurities. We want some of that funk. That's what's gonna flavor the spirit, but we don't want all the funk. You've heard of moonshiners, right? Of moonshine. Well, a lot of moonshiners back in the day went blind because they didn't properly filtrate out their spirits. So they didn't filtrate out the methanol, which causes blindness. So that's not good. But we got you. We got you there. We filter all that out. So you should leave this establishment with the same, vision you did coming in. It might be like temporarily impaired, but it should come back in full swing. Moving on to this smaller column, that is not a column still, that is actually our gin basket. And basically the only thing that separates our vodka from our gin are botanicals. And a botanical is literally any plant that you extract oils from. Any gin fans in the house? A few of you? 2 of you. Well, there's 3. I mean, you can do. Hopefully after the tasting, we'll have a couple more y'all raise your hand. But I'm in love with you. When I first started working here, I did not like gin either. Not a gin fan. I had what we call a gincident, a negative gin experience. So then I was like, I swore it off. But then one of my friends actually had their birthday here. So this is before they started working here at all. And they're like, oh, you have to try this gin cocktail. This is called the Indecent Gimlet, which is on our menu now. But it's gin. It's like a gimlet with a twist. So we use our gin, we use lime juice, and then we also use elderflower. But then we use orange liqueur, rosé. They usually spritz like rose water or something. I don't know. It was very delicious. And after that experience, I was like, oh my gosh, I think I'm a gin drinker again. But there are different styles of gin as well. So our style is a little different. I feel like the most popular gin style is London Dry. So gins like Beefeater, Tanqueray, or Bombay. And that is a London Dry style of gin. And usually that produces a very, very heavy pine flavor. Does anyone know what? Yeah, juniper berries. That is what botanical produces, that pine flavor. All gins must use it. London Dry, that's kind of very prevalent. But we use juniper berries, but we use 13 other botanicals. We use a blend of more baking spices, citrus, and peppers. So it really does provide a nice complex flavor, which is very appealing, I feel like, to more people. So I'm excited for you to try it. We also use 2 different flavoring techniques. One of those techniques is called maceration. So we're going to dump a mixture of wet and dry botanicals into our pot still with the neutral spirit. And we're going to allow that to steep for 24 hours. So it's going to marinate, it's going to become friends, and then we're going to distill that mixture. It's going to bypass the whiskey column, bypass the vodka column. We already did that. And then it's going to go straight to the gin basket. And inside the gin basket, there is a mesh plate where we stack an additional variety of those wet and dry botanicals. And as the alcohol vaporizes and passes through, that is how that spirit is flavored. So with the vapor distillation style, you're going to get more of a delicate flavor. It's going to be light. While the maceration technique, you're going to get bolder flavors. But we love the combination of using both techniques. Now last but not least, we got our condenser. The alcohol vapor travels as a vapor through that main pipe, travels down that little coil in that tube called the worm tub, and there's cold water being circulated in and out. And that cold water is going to condense, and it's going to come out as a liquid out of that little spout there, the midsection of the condenser. Everything comes out clear. Vodka, gin, even bourbon. Bourbon doesn't get that signature brown color until after it's been aged in a very specific barrel. So let's dive into bourbon. Where are my bourbon fans at? The other half of the bourbon. Very cool. So you probably heard this phrase before. All bourbon is whiskey, but not all whiskey is bourbon. There are different rules in order to call a bourbon a bourbon. I like to put those rules into the ABCs of bourbon. Any idea what the A stands for?
America.
America, yes!
America.
America. Must be made in the USA. It's made elsewhere. Unfortunately, not bourbon, just whiskey. And there are a lot of other spirits that have that same type of rule where it purely is geographical. So spirits like tequila. You can't call it tequila unless it's been made in Mexico. If it's made elsewhere, it's just agave spirit. I just learned that one. It's fascinating. A scotch, gotta make it in Scotland. Champagne, France. So there's a lot of different spirits that kind of have that. Any idea what the B stands for? Barrel, yes. So all bourbon must be made and aged in a virgin charred American oak barrel. Virgin meaning new, one and done. You may not reuse it. The char refers to the level. There are 7, 1 being the least charred, 7 being the most. We use like a level 5. And there's no wrong. Let's see. And there's no wrong answer. You know, this is a craft distillery, so it all has to do with the distiller's preference. With that level of char, we're going to get more of those vanilla caramel flavors that we really, we're striving for. If we wanted like a deeper char, that's going to produce more, a little bit more bitter flavors, so like coffee, dark chocolate. The lighter you go, the lighter flavors you're going to get, like honey, butterscotch, things like that. Any idea what the C stands for? Corn, yes! It must have, all bourbon must have a mash bill of at least 51% or more corn. So it can be more, but no less than that 51%. All right, welcome to the Rickenbacker. This is our main event space. Holds around 200 people standing, 250 seated. It's really interesting being here like in the wedding season, like June, like this is wedding season, and it's insane like how the space transforms literally every week. Like our events staff they're pretty great, and yeah, it's like a nice blank canvas for any type of event that you want. And then here is our vodka column right here. We were just down there a few moments ago, so pretty neat. I also like to use this portion of the tour to talk a little bit more history. So a lot of people don't know this, but Boss Tom Pendergast and Harry Truman were friends. And most people say that Pendergast is who got Truman elected as president. Their origin story is very hilarious to me though, so I like to kind of tell that. So back when Harry Truman was elected to county courts, he made a promise that he was going to provide paved roads from farm to market. So you think that he would then approach Tom Pendergast because of his various concrete companies and because he was like Boss Tom. No, he didn't. At the time, Pendergast and his concrete companies didn't have the best reputation for providing good quality work. So Truman was going to go elsewhere. Well, then when this got back to Tom Pendergast, he was livid, and he had Truman come to his office, and Truman said, "I will not have pie crust roads in my county." Well, you think, uh-oh, someone come get him, because Tom Pendergast, he was the boss. Well, no, Pendergast actually respected Truman after that. Not a lot of people stood up to him, and he did. And so Pendergast went back to his team. And he was like, Harry Truman is the most hard-headed, honoriest son of a gun. Probably used a different word. There's nothing I can do about it. So if we provide good quality work, we'll get the job. And man, did they get the job. A ton of other concrete projects flourished from that one interaction. Concrete projects like the Kansas City Power and Light Building, which is very reminiscent of our bottle. That's kind of what that was our muse for the shape of our current bottle, as you can see. Other projects like City Hall, the airport, the Casey Municipal Auditorium, Brush Creek, probably his largest concrete project. Just a lot came from that. When we're exiting this space, we do have a wall of photography, and each photo has a nice quote. And my favorite one is the second from the end, and it is Tom Pendergast and Harry Truman, and there is a quote, and I'll give it some little preface. So when Tom Pendergast passed away, Harry Truman attended his funeral. It was very controversial because Truman was president, he's sitting president. So people were like, why risk this? Why do this? And he said, he was always my friend and I'll always be his. So the reason why it was so risky, because we haven't really shared much about the other side of Tom. Everyone's a two-sided coin. There's the good and the bad. So we like to glorify Tom because, no prohibition and alcohol flowing, but he was a convicted felon. He tax fraud. Yeah, they'll get you. Taxes for your taxes. Tax fraud. He also did some deals with mobsters. Never a mobster. Misconception that he was. He was not. But did he do deals with them? Yes. Oh, yes, he did. But still. I'm going to show you a video too, like I said earlier, and then they'll give you some more context and some more information about Boss Tom and all that.
Steve kind of stalked me when I was in grade school, and finally I acknowledged him, and we became friends.
We're both creative, and we both like to laugh at each other. Jokes that we've been working on for dozens of years since knowing each other.
And it kind of dawned on us that what we loved most to do was drinking. And so we made that decision, why don't we just open up a distillery?
David managed to somehow hover over the muck, and then I end up having to do the muck.
For years, I drank what my father drank, which was just a martini, and I have shifted lately into a Manhattan because I have fallen in love with rye and bourbon.
He's not necessary in the whole process, really. But he's nice, he's funny, so it's good to have around. No, I mean, we've talked about this before. We are a good team. We complement each other's skill sets. We have knockdown, drag-out fights. But at the end, we're both satisfied that we have a better result than either of us would have come up with individually. Rob's a great addition to the team because what he brings is the actual distilling experience, which it turns out you need in this industry.
Here at Tomstown, our still is the most versatile of its kind. It can create gin, it can create vodka, it can create whiskey and rum all in the same still.
We needed a Vossi to help us navigate these waters, and it has been an incredible experience working with him.
It's going to take small guys like us to kind of push the boundaries of what these spirits can be.
The St. Louis newspaper had an expose about Kansas City, and it said, horse racing, gambling, speakeasies, and it looked like a tour brochure, really.
It was the Vegas of its day. It really was. That's why everybody was coming here. If we can supply half of what they had in 1930s Kansas City here, then we've done our job.
We're known for the great products that we make in Kansas City, and I want to make sure that distilled spirits is up on that list.
It's totally in our interest that all these distilleries are blossoming now, so we're really excited about it. And then we'll kick their ass.